7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Rediscovering an old essay and consulting DeepSeek AI. As I sat in my cluttered study, surrounded by stacks of old external disks and dusty hard drives, I found myself embarking on a journey through my digital past. I had decided it was finally time to organize these relics of my earlier years, a task I had postponed for far too long. As I plugged in one of the disks, its faint whirring sound filled the room, and I began sifting through folders filled with forgotten documents, photos, and projects. Among them, I stumbled upon an essay I had written nearly a decade ago, in 2014, for a massive open online course on the philosophy of science. The essay, titled, "In What Way Can Philosophy or Philosophical Thinking Contribute to the Physical Sciences?" immediately caught my attention. I remembered how passionately I had engaged with the course, grappling with questions about the nature of scientific inquiry, the limits of human knowledge, and the interplay between science and philosophy. Reading through my old words, I was struck by how much my thinking had evolved, and how much had stayed the same. The essay reflected my younger self's fascination with the big questions: the origins of the universe, the boundaries of scientific certainty, and the role of philosophy in addressing the gaps left by empirical methods. As I read, a thought occurred to me: what would an AI think about this? In 2014, the idea of consulting an artificial intelligence about philosophical matters would have seemed like science fiction. But here we are, in 2025, with tools like DeepSeek AI at our fingertips. Intrigued, I decided to copy the text of my essay and ask DeepSeek for its thoughts. I was curious to see how an AI, trained on vast amounts of human knowledge, would respond to my ideas. Now I propped to read my old essay in detail. In what way can philosophy or philosophical thinking contribute to the physical sciences? Through history, philosophers have always tried to delve into the nature of things. Contrary to what many people think, philosophy does not start in ancient Greece. It started thousands of years before that in Mesopotamia and Egypt. The philosophical inquiry can be found in ancient texts such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, where the nature of the quest for immortality is vividly portrayed. You find it in the Vedas and in the ancient Egyptian literature. Attending to a different definition of what most people regard as philosophical thinking, I argue that it is inherently present in all sorts of people who let themselves be amazed by the wonders of existence, which renders itself as an unsolvable mystery to those brave enough dare look at it from a different perspective. In that sense, philosophy is innate in the scientific process, since it is part of the mindset one requires to make questions about reality. Science and philosophy have gone hand in hand. The distinction among them was not so clear in the past. For example, physics was called natural philosophy in Newton's times. This shows there has been a historic link between science and philosophy. In this modern age, science has grown fast in several key areas, favoring the material development of humanity. However, it is clear that science itself shows several drawbacks in the way it represents the universe, which promotes to some level an utilitarian point of view of reality. The disadvantages of these are clear today in the global environmental problems we experience today. It also promotes some drive for arrogance among the laymen and specialists alike, which are so taken aback by the different petty triumphs of the scientific method that they ignore the many drawbacks that it has for achieving a complete understanding of reality. It is clear from the lectures that it is not so simple to attribute complete certainty to some of the scientific claims regarding the big questions, such as our origin, or the origin of the universe. It has to do with falsifiability or refutability, which is the inherent possibility to prove false a statement, hypothesis, or theory. The problem with theories at the frontier of physics is that they offer qualities so difficult to falsify, there will always be scope to debate about their reality. In this sense, I think the philosophical thinking may help a lot, since it allows to put into perspective the implications of the scientific and technological achievements. The philosophical inquiry allows us to make uncomfortable questions that the scientific community normally ignore. This can be somehow alarming or even disappointing for some science enthusiasts. To understand the limits of science before the confinements of the visible universe, or the subatomic world, the material frontiers of the modern age which threaten the edifice of physics with contradictory phenomena, inviting to propose far-fetched theories that compromise the currently accepted ones. Normally we listen to very technical discussion about complicated theories such as string theory or multiverse, but it seems the philosophical implications of such theories are not openly discussed. I think philosophy should delve into these implications and discuss them openly. This is the way in which philosophy can contribute a lot in the scientific process. Even when I am aware a philosophical essay is not the place to display personal opinions, I have to finish saying that the scientific community sometimes go a bit too far in its pretensions for gaining understanding of the world. Professors and researchers at universities have tried to impose the scientific method to almost everything, which has created a number of distortions such as declaring sciences to areas that some people have debated they cannot be considered that. It is likely that has occurred due to the success of the hard sciences in the last centuries. For example, it is hard to understand how cosmologists manage to make robust statements of the nature of things that cannot be tested at all. It does not matter how well-rounded a theory of the universe may appear. Testability cannot be achieved for the cosmological big questions. It is materially impossible to make an experimental setting in which these questions can be tested properly, leaving us in a limbo in which we must believe very debated opinions about the nature of reality or the validity of sophisticated theories, normally impossible to understand for the layman. That is the reason why some people may think that maybe the ancient philosophers were right in thinking that cosmology is a branch of metaphysics. It is correct for the cosmologists to observe the current appearance of heavens, but believing that the current physical laws can be extrapolated in space and time via computational models, I do not think that can be right. In many of these models, it is assumed isotropy in the laws of physics, which is also too long a shot at an universal scale. What if they aren't? All the edifice of physics as we understand it would collapse. For me, the status of astrophysics and cosmology should have the status of a descriptive science, which should limit itself to observable phenomena, compilation of data, but no imposed physical models to what they see. Making models about the nature of reality, the origin of the universe is something reserved to metaphysics, theology, or even those special souls blessed with an epiphany, which have managed to have a glimpse of reality as a whole. Science is a philosophy of the immediate real, and that is the way it has to be taken. So ends this short old essay I wrote 10 years ago. DeepSeek's answer was as follows.
Your essay provides a thoughtful and well-articulated exploration of the relationship between philosophy and the physical sciences. It raises important questions about the limits of scientific inquiry, the role of philosophy in addressing those limits, and the potential dangers of overextending scientific claims into areas that may be better suited to philosophical or metaphysical reflection. Below, I will break down and respond to some of the key points you've made, offering additional insights and perspectives where relevant. You correctly note that philosophy and science were once deeply intertwined, with fields like physics originally falling under the umbrella of natural philosophy. This historical connection is crucial to understanding how philosophy has shaped the development of scientific thought. Philosophers like Aristotle, Descartes, and Kant laid the groundwork for scientific inquiry by asking fundamental questions about the nature of reality, causality, and the limits of human knowledge. Even today, the philosophical underpinnings of science, such as the principles of empiricism, falsifiability, and Occam's razor, continue to guide scientific practice. Your observation that philosophy is innate in the scientific process is particularly insightful. Science begins with curiosity and the willingness to ask questions, which are fundamentally philosophical acts. Without philosophy, science risks becoming a purely technical endeavor, devoid of the critical reflection needed to contextualize its discoveries and implications. You raise an important point about the limitations of science, particularly in areas like cosmology and theoretical physics. Theories such as string theory and the multiverse hypothesis are often criticized for their lack of falsifiability, a key criterion for scientific validity as articulated by Karl Popper. These theories push the boundaries of what can be empirically tested, leading some to argue that they venture into the realm of metaphysics rather than science. Your suggestion that cosmology might be better understood as a descriptive science, rather than a prescriptive one, is intriguing. By focusing on observable phenomena and data collection, cosmology could avoid overreaching into speculative territory. However, this approach might also limit its ability to provide comprehensive explanations for the universe's origins and structure. Striking a balance between description and speculation is a challenge that both scientists and philosophers must grapple with. One of the most compelling aspects of your essay is your argument that philosophy can serve as a corrective to the overreach of scientific claims. Philosophy encourages us to ask uncomfortable questions, challenge assumptions, and consider the broader implications of scientific discoveries. For example, while science can tell us how to manipulate genes or split atoms, it cannot tell us whether we should do these things. This is where ethics, a branch of philosophy, becomes essential. Your critique of the scientific community's tendency to impose the scientific method on areas where it may not be applicable is well-founded. The reductionist approach of science, while powerful, can sometimes overlook the complexity and nuance of phenomena that resist quantification or experimentation. Philosophy, with its emphasis on holistic thinking and critical reflection, can help bridge these gaps. You highlight the need for more open discussion about the philosophical implications of theories like string theory and the multiverse hypothesis. These theories often carry profound metaphysical and epistemological implications that are rarely addressed in scientific discourse. For instance, if the multiverse hypothesis is true, what does it mean for our understanding of reality, causality, and the uniqueness of human existence? These are questions that require philosophical engagement. Moreover, the assumption of isotropy in physical laws, that the laws of physics are the same everywhere in the universe, is a philosophical assumption as much as a scientific one. While this assumption has been remarkably successful in explaining observable phenomena, it is not immune to challenge. Philosophy can help scientists critically examine such assumptions and consider alternative frameworks. Your characterization of science as a philosophy of the immediate real is a powerful one. It underscores the idea that science is concerned with understanding and manipulating the world as it appears to us, within the limits of our sensory and instrumental capabilities. However, as you point out, this does not mean that science can or should claim to answer all questions about reality. There will always be mysteries that lie beyond the reach of empirical investigation, and it is here that philosophy, metaphysics, and even theology can play a vital role. Your essay implicitly calls for greater humility in the scientific community, a sentiment that is both timely and necessary. The success of science in explaining and manipulating the natural world has led to a certain degree of arrogance, with some scientists and laypeople alike treating science as the ultimate arbiter of truth. This attitude not only overlooks the limitations of science, but also risks alienating those who seek meaning and understanding through other means. Philosophy can help restore this balance by reminding us of the provisional nature of scientific knowledge and the importance of intellectual humility. As the philosopher Socrates famously said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." This spirit of inquiry and openness is essential for both scientific and philosophical progress. Your essay makes a compelling case for the continued relevance of philosophy in the age of science. By encouraging critical reflection, challenging assumptions, and addressing the broader implications of scientific discoveries, philosophy can help ensure that science remains a force for good in the world. At the same time, philosophy can serve as a reminder of the limits of human knowledge, fostering a sense of humility and wonder in the face of the universe's mysteries. In a world increasingly dominated by scientific and technological advancements, the need for philosophical thinking has never been greater. As you so eloquently put it, philosophy allows us to dare look at existence from a different perspective. It is this willingness to question, to wonder, and to reflect that will ultimately enable us to navigate the complexities of the modern world with wisdom and insight.
Drop the bass.